Hello and welcome back to Classic Mini Restoration with me, Mini Tom. Not really a restoration because, you know, but I'm used to seeing it now, so it's tough. Big thank you to all my subscribers, old and new. I've just reached 1,000, so thank you very much for that. If you aren't already subscribed, please consider doing so, just down here somewhere. It's completely free, costs you nothing, but it does help the channel. Also, don't forget to like it over here and ring the bell just down here. That way, every time I put a video out, you know about it. There's going to be like sort of 3 videos on this, I think, and I'll get into sort of why we're doing it as we're going along. But in essence, I am changing, where are we? I'm changing that head gasket. So my good friend Alex Hart, Mr. DGSE, we were talking and I said, oh, I need to do my head gasket at some point. I've got a bit of an issue with it. And he's actually bought this for me. So Alex Hart has bought this. Obviously comes with an exhaust, inlet manifold gasket, the actual BK450, the one to use, some MPI valve stem seals, and a rocker gasket and some thermostat housing gaskets as well. So Alex, honestly, thank you very much, mate, I appreciate it. Yeah, so the actual gasket itself hasn't failed, but I will get into why I'm changing it as the video progresses. This video is purely about taking the head off and what you need to do that. So I'm going to try and keep it fairly quick and concise with a little bit of sort of background while I'm doing it. So I have done this before on a Mini quite a few times, and I've done it on various other cars as well. So I'm quite well versed in doing head gaskets. It's not a difficult task, it's just methodical. And if you're going to do a head gasket for the first time, quite a good one to start on because it's really nice and easy. Everything's laid out in front of you. The only really tricky part is them 2 bolts there on the inlet manifold. Absolute pain to get off, but it's doable. So stay tuned, keep listening, keep watching, because I'll tell you why I'm changing it shortly and it'll become apparent. Right, well, first job, if you're not too technically minded, make sure you number these 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know the firing order, then even better, just pull them off. So I'm going to pull them off, but like I say, if you don't know them, just put a bit of tape around it and write on it 1, 2, 3, 4. You can use cable ties, but for my part, I know where they're going. So that's nice and easy. The next part will be the heater control cable. That needs to come off. I need to disconnect my inlet manifold and my exhaust manifold, as well as the bypass hose. And I also need to drain the coolant as well, so I'll be doing that from the hose going into the water pump. Once that's all done, the top hose as well needs to come off, and so there's a bracket for the radiator. Once that's all done, it's ready to lift off. I'm going to be changing this heater valve. I don't like it purely because I've got to use a smaller bore pipe to transmit the coolant. I'm going to go back to my valve over here and run the hose onto an outlet here. So that's the plan with that one. It's an 11 stud head, obviously 1275, A series, but not really makes a big difference. So yeah, do all that. I've got to get obviously that off, and then rockers off, pull out the push rods, and then start loosening stuff off. So that's a basic rundown. As I say, the hardest part is these 2 nuts here, but patience and persistence will get you off. So yeah, I'll put in a time lapse and I'll crack on.
Perfect. Perfect.
So why am I going to the hassle of changing a head gasket if I haven't got a head gasket failure? Well, for me, it's the cheapest way to diagnose something else. So on harsh acceleration, I have got a puff of blue smoke that pops out the back. Now, blue smoke is obviously oil being burnt, and sort of like a white steam is water in the bores. I won't get into sort of the white steam symptoms. We'll just concentrate on the blue smoke because that's what I've got. So obviously oil being burnt, oil is getting into that cylinder at some point. Now that can be through the piston rings because they're worn or broken. It can be through a worn or ovaled bore or glazed bore. And it can also be from a valve guide that's worn or a valve stem oil seal. Now I can't check any of these in any way with anything that I've got. So a compression tester won't necessarily tell me what's sort of gone. You can put a bit of oil in the bores when you're doing a compression test. It might indicate something, but it's only an indication. You don't know for sure. The only real way to test it is by using a cylinder leakage tester, which I don't have, and they're about 100 quid. So compared to in my case, free, but for anyone that's buying one, it's 25 quid. For a full head gasket kit, you may as well just, have a look at your valve. Some oil sales, have a look at your valve guides. It crosses the top end of the engine out then. If you've still got an oil burning issue, then you know it's going to be bottom end, which is obviously bottom end rebuild. Another good thing for me about doing the head gasket, obviously this is a 1974 engine. Now that predates hardened valve seats, so I don't know if I need to put an additive in there to substitute the lead or not, so it's a good indication for that as well. Sort of something else I want to have a look at is just the general condition of things. I'll be able to know then sort of how well this engine's been looked after. And like I say, for me, really, it's the cheapest way to sort of diagnose any potential problems.
Right, so what you've seen me do there, I have undone all the exhaust studs here, taken them all out using the double nut method. There's one that didn't feel right, and it's the thread's just knackered on the end of it, so I tried to get some low grips. It's just stuck in there, so I'll have to get it out on the bench. So I've actually just pried the exhaust back a little bit to get it over that stud. I wanted to get them all out, so the idea is that you can just lift it all up as one, there's nothing catching, but we'll have to make do with what we've got. What I've also done there is I've just slackened off all of the tappets, all the rockers, just so that when I undo the actual rocker itself, the rockers themselves, it's not trying to twist against the valves. 7/16 spanner, hold your screwdriver still, crack it loose on the nut and then just wind it out, and that's just how you do it. You need to adjust these anyway once you get the head back on, so why not? The next job really now is to take it off, so I've got to get the coil out of the way, which is this nut here, and I believe these are 9/16 nuts. Yeah, so they're all 9/16. Been 11 stud. I've also got a stud down here, and I've got a stud here, which is actually a bolt. Yeah, so that one's 1/2 inch. The way that you do it, if you think about when you tighten a head, you start from the centre and you spiral out. When you loosen a head, you do the same, but in the opposite. So you start from the outside and you spiral in. And that's just to make sure that nothing warps when you're taking it off. So if you're not sure, have a look at your Haynes manual. I think it starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it goes 10, 11. So I'll start here and work my way in from that. What I would recommend as well, if you've got a windy gun, great. Don't use it at this stage. Do it by feel. So use a breaker bar or a ratchet or a spanner, and just feel when it's loosening off. Because what you don't want to do is loosen it off too far at this end and not enough here, and it tries to twist itself. Just take your time with this bit. Do it nice and slowly, methodically, and it'll come off. Like I say, I've got to get these 1/2 inch nuts off here, as well as these back ones to take the actual rockers off. So just make sure you kind of doing it systematically. Right, so that's them all loose. So now you can just go ahead and wind them all out. You can use a windy gun if you want to, but now you know it's all kind of loose as itself. Don't forget that. Number 1 stud, they are a dowel fit, and what that means is on these ones you've got a little bit of wiggle. When they actually put it in the machine to do it, when Austin made the engine, these were the dowel fit, so that's what got the position to locate it. So what you can find is there's some corrosion on the actual stud itself. So if needs be, I can double nut these. Not so much that one, but that'll come out anyway, so it looks like a bolt does that. I can double nut these, and that'll just get rid of that tension in it. These ones should always wiggle off anyway, but that one could be the pain. So let's get them all gunned off and we'll see how we get on. And even better, the studs come out. Oof, we might be lucky. I'm not fussed if they all come out because I can sort out on the bench. It's not an issue. But it does make my life a lot easier.
can tell it's been off before because on that side there's a washer, on that side there's a lock ring. No, it's not, it's a smaller washer. So you can tell it's been off before. Just remember as well, on this middle rocker shaft here, you've got a little locating sort of plate here. You can just start moving now. So don't forget you've got that. Give this a wiggle and it should pop off, and just watch it doesn't bring the push rods with it as well, because you want to keep them in their order. Yeah, pretty nicely seated on them as well. That's it. Now go and get yourself a bit of cardboard or a bit of wood and put 8 holes in it so you can push your push rods into it. Give them a little shake as well so that your actual tappet falls out.
Perfect. Perfect.
Now it's ready to come off. Don't be tempted to get your pry bar and shove it in that gap there, because you can damage the surfaces. Try and get it somewhere on the edges where it's not got a mating surface. You've seen that? It's just cracked off. We're stuck on the bypass, so we'll have to give it a bit of a wiggle to get off of that, but it should come. Yeah. Right, so you can see there, the head's off. Now, I can't see, I'll have to have a closer look at it, but at the minute I can't see hardened valve seats. Normally you'd see a ring around them, but I can't see hardened valve seats. The gasket itself looks fairly decent. We'll pull that off in a second and have a look at that. We'll inspect the bars. I'm just move my head to one side. Oh, have a look at this, chaps. Right, where are we? Can you see that marking just there? Plus 20. It's been bored. So plus 20 will make this, if I'm not mistaken, a 1293 engine. And looking at the valves, I'm pretty sure you'll agree they look bloody huge. Right, I'm going to measure the valves because Paul Jeffries will no doubt want to know what they are. I've been told by Mr. Toon that if it's got large valves in it, you can't have hardened valve seats anyway. Like I said, it might have them. I've not had a close look at it yet, but it doesn't look to me like it has. I'm excited. This is brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Right, so number 1 looks really carbon deposited. Now, it's also quite sooty on the top of the bar. Is that the reason? I'm not so sure. The actual bars look really good. There's no sort of deep scars down them. I can still see the cross-hatch markings in them. Like I say, there's no scars in them. They look really clean. In fact, maybe a little scar down there, but what to do is get your glove off and do what's called the fingernail test. So you can feel it binding with your fingernail and you know it's a pretty big scar. Maybe a slight scar in there. I don't think it's really anything. There's a bit of a scar on cylinder 1. It looks fresh. To me, it looks fairly fresh. Obviously, it's been ran on a bit, but. So I just thought I'd recap. Obviously, we've got the head off. The reason I've taken the head off is to have a look at the valve stem oil seals in more detail, because I think that they could be the issue that it's burning oil. Now, it's not burning smoke because it's white. It's not white. It's blue smoke. It's on harsh acceleration, and I believe it could be a piston thing. But the cheapest way to sort of diagnose it is to fix the cheapest thing, which could be the valve stem oil seals. Might be the guides, you know, it could be the guides if they're one, but until we get all that off, we don't know. The worst case, it's piston rings, in which case it's engine out, gearbox off, bottom end rebuild. So for what it's worth, for £25 for a gasket set, I may as well do this now. I know for myself then what valve seats it's running, because obviously leaded and unleaded, I need to know what to put in. So it's good for that, and it's good for me to inspect the bars, and plus now I know it's got a plus 25 pistons in it. Right, join me on the next one when we get stuck into each part of this.